Hey guys, welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Chef Dean Max. Today we're going to do a really simple egg casserole. I know you guys love to do these kind of on holidays or to get family come over or something on the weekend and you're looking for something simple to do. You can fill it with a lot of leftovers, bake it off. It seems really nice and it's just simple and great to do. So stay tuned with me. Click subscribe if you're not already doing that. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video and ring that bell and I'll send you new things I'm doing. So I'll see you in a second. Hey you guys, all right, we're gonna do this really simple casserole. So I wanna get this started. So I'm gonna turn my cast iron pan on here. What I wanna do is, you don't have to have a cast iron for this, you can use anything, but basically I'm gonna take some flavors and put this together. It's basically an egg casserole. So you're gonna have egg, you're gonna have either cream or milk, or a mixture of those two, and then whatever flavorings you like to put in there. So with this, I'm kind of getting rid of some stuff I have in my fridge. I've got some leftover ham from the holidays, and what I'm going to do is cut some onion. So the onion doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be not too big. It doesn't have to be cut perfectly small. I don't want to do rings with it because I just want to, you can see, just like a kind of a little kind of a rough chop, if you will. I'm not going through the process of cutting these perfect dices, okay? Just because it's going to get baked in this casserole and I don't need it to be that way. So why are we sauteing the onion? Because, some of the stuff's just going to go into this casserole raw and get baked, but things that are watery. So, I'm using kale today. Now, if you're using spinach, I would saute the spinach first too, because the spinach holds a lot of water. But kale doesn't have as much water like that. It's a little bit drier of a leafy green, so you don't need to do that. Now, I have some beautiful leftover honey baked ham, and I know you guys buy this from the store and you're like, okay, what do I do with this? I know a lot of you make like a split pea soup with it, which is always a great idea with it. And then I always like to saute it next day for breakfast, but it's just so good, right? It's like, so juicy, so sweet. So what I like to do is, it's not super wet, so you don't have to saute it, but there's something about sauteed, like honey baked ham that I just love. And I love to have it with breakfast things, so I like to actually saute it. If you like it a little bit more tender and soft, then you can just probably toss it right into your casserole without even doing anything to it. But again, I like to saute it, so it's more fun. So with this, I'm going to have my onions. Now, I'm going to add my salt and pepper to this for seasoning, okay? So I put a lot of pepper, right? You could put spicy ingredients in this too. If you wanted to put some hot chilies in there, you could do that too. And add a little bit more oil. Okay. And then I've got, you could put garlic if you want to put garlic. I'm going to put salt. So that's a heavy teaspoon of salt. And what we're looking to do is just cook the water out of these. You don't have to like brown them all the way, but you just want to really cook kind of the wateriness. Because what would happen if you mix your egg and you put this in with the egg? What's going to happen? It's going to leak out water. So when we're doing this recipe, we're going to look at the amount of liquid put in it, because you're going to put either milk. I actually have some heavy cream I want to get rid of. So I'm going to use heavy cream and a little water to dilute that a little bit. So if I'm using 6 eggs and I'm going to use a couple cups of milk, well then what I'll probably do is use maybe like half a cup of heavy cream and probably a cup and a half of water to this. So it already has water in it, but what you're going to want to do is we're accounting for that water, so we know how much water we're putting in. So when we're done baking this egg, it's not a watery baked egg dish. It becomes nice. We're also going to put bread in that to kind of absorb some too. So what I'll show you is how I cut some of that bread too. So here I've got some really nice ciabatta style bread, even though that doesn't look like ciabatta. It was a small ciabatta loaf. Now what I do, and I tell people do this all the time, instead of buying cheap bread, whatever's convenient to your house, the best bakery near where I live is about 40 minutes away. But I go there once every, I probably go there once every 3 weeks, and I'll buy, like $50 worth of loaves of bread. And then when I get home, I cut them all and portion them into smaller stuff, wrap them in plastic, put them in Ziploc bags, and then stick them in the freezer. So like for this was like one sandwich loaf that from a big ciabatta baguette that I cut up into smaller pieces. Now, I'll take that, and like for this, it's perfect for like 1 or 2 people, because most of the time when I'm cooking at home, it's only for myself and maybe a couple other people, and that's it. So with this, you can see, all I'm doing is taking these slices and dicing it small like that. And that's it. Now, this ham, I want to put this ham in here now, because oops, I got one piece tried to get away there. Get back in there. No wasted ham, right? So I've got my ham here. My onions have cooked. They're starting to get a little bit of color on them, which is fine. They can have color. You could actually fully caramelize these if you wanted to. It does add a nice flavor, but you don't need to. So with this, I'm just going to stir it up really good. And what I want to do is I want to cook some of the moisture of that ham out, and I like to get a little sear on it, so it gets a little edge to it. And then you also have the fat that's on that honey baked ham. It does have a little bit of a fat cap on there. You don't notice that because they rub it with sugar and salt, and when they roast it, it gets nice and tasty. When you eat it, it's sweet and fatty, so of course it tastes wonderful, right? Now, while this is working, you guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put, sorry, I got to get a little water. This thing was a little wet. I have some eggs. So I want to put my eggs in here. So we got egg. We want to make sure we don't get any shells. Some people will try to get really fancy, and then they're putting shells in there. So that's one of the things you got to keep an eye out for. Right there, I dropped one in there as I said that, right? But it's easy to get out. You just pop them out, right? This one bowl I have is a very sharp edge. So sometimes it likes to, to cut my eggs in a way that cause it to do that. But I've got that like that. It's perfect. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I don't have a fork. Let me grab a fork. So I have a fork here, and I'm going to whisk these eggs up. Now I'm going to stop for a second because I want to stir this mixture. You can see it's starting to get a little bit sauteed and nice. Beautiful flavors coming together, right? That's what I want. Okay? And that's it. You're really just cooking this down. Now, what I'm going to do is I have some kale here. This kale was actually frozen. When I buy kale like this and I cook this, sometimes I'll go out of town, and I know the kale is going to be bad when I get back. So I stick it right in the freezer. And why do I do that? Because it'll keep it really nice and green and perfect. And then what I can do is if I want to make a smoothie, I can make a smoothie and add my kale to that. And then with this kale, I'm just going to wilt it down a little bit. Okay? Like I said, this kale doesn't have a lot of moisture in it, so I don't have to worry about it like losing a lot of liquid. Spinach, that much spinach could lose maybe a half a cup of liquid or a quarter cup of liquid. So if you're not expecting that, it changes your recipe. So that's why we do it. You got to understand how to cook and the thought behind it. You're saying to yourself, okay, well, you're putting water and cream in this, and you're worried about cooking the water out of this. Why don't you just add less water? Well, you could do that. But the thing is we don't know how much water is going to come out of our vegetables until we cook them. So when we cook them like that and make them dry, we know exactly how much water we're going to put in. And the ratio is the important part. That recipe for that ratio is crucial, okay? So look, we got this kale. Smells beautiful, right? And it's cooked down nicely, okay? And I'm gonna let this sit in, I've turned this off now, and I'm gonna let it sit and kind of residually cook in there as it just steams, okay? Meanwhile, I've got my eggs here. Now, I am gonna put some salt in my eggs too. Not as much, probably half of that. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil in there. That's a tablespoon of oil basically. Now that's an extra virgin because I'm making this with kale and ham, and the extra virgin is gonna be a good flavor in there, okay? So what I'm gonna add to that too is I like mustard. I've got this really spicy German mustard. It's basically like a Dijon. So if you just have Dijon, just put that 1 tablespoon of that in. Okay? And then we're gonna add our cream. So I've got half a cup of heavy cream. Okay? And then we got half a cup of water here. And I think I'm gonna need another half a cup. Okay? Now, let's see what that looks like. Now we've got a lot of I'm gonna whisk this up because I want to get the mustard kind of mixed around really good. Now, the last thing we're going to add to that is cheese. Now, obviously cheddar is a really good choice for this. Just good old cheddar cheese with ham and cheddar cheese. Come on. Do I need to even say any more? Nope, I don't. It's the best. But I have some pecorino romano. Now, pecorino is going to be way different because it's going to be saltier. That's why I'm not going to put too much salt in those two items in both my eggs and my vegetables there. And I've got ham, which is salty, and pecorino, which is salty. So, you have to understand that it's important for you to go a little less salty on your mixture than you would normally. Okay, so with this pecorino, I'm just grating like crazy. Now, you could just do Parmesan, it's fine. Oh my God, I can't believe I just dropped that in there. I guess that was God saying that's enough cheese in there, Dean. So, we'll put it there. I definitely won't throw that away, okay? And I'm not going to pull that out of here either because I want you guys to see mistakes happen with all of us, right? Just happens. So with this, I've got some beautiful bread diced up that I'm going to put in there. And now you can see that's coming together, right? So I've got my beautiful mixture, and that's going to start to absorb that, okay? So I want to mix these two in. Now, I want to do this at a pace that is, we call tempering. This is warm, it's hot. You see it's steaming? So I'm going to put a couple teaspoons of warm and a lot of cold stuff. What is that going to do? The cold stuff's going to cool the warm down, right? If you put a little bit of cold egg and a lot of hot stuff, what's going to do? It's going to make the eggs hot fast and cook them. We don't want to do that. We want to cook these eggs slow in the oven, okay, not the other way around. Normally, I would let this cool. So you would let this ham and spinach cool. So, I'm tempering it now, what we call tempering, because I want to just put it in quickly. So I'm going to show you, we can put it in quick and it's going to be just fine. But a lot of times you'll make this and then you'll let it cool for like 30 minutes and then you add it in room temperature. You don't have to worry about tempering it, okay? Now, one of the other things is that you don't need to bake this right away. I'm gonna bake it now, but you can let this sit like overnight in the fridge and then tomorrow you bake it. It's gonna take about 50 minutes at 350, baked, uncovered, right? So I've got my nice mixture, right? It's ready to go. Okay? Now, Remember I said it was 6 eggs and 2 cups? And that's what it was. So we got a cup and a half. So because I put a cup of that, and I think I'm gonna put, I like the creaminess. I want to add a little bit more creaminess. So I'm gonna say we're gonna go with 1 cup of heavy cream, okay? 1 cup of heavy cream, and we're gonna go with 1 cup of water. So that's our recipe, okay? 6 eggs, 1 cup of heavy cream, 1 cup of water, half a cup of grated pecorino. Like I said, you could use Parmesan, you could use a half a cup of cheddar cheese, whatever you like to put in there. Gruyere is one of my favorite, because Gruyere is like nice because it's got kind of that really sharp flavor like a goat or like a pecorino would have, but it's creamy, like it's creamier too, like a cheddar. So now the last thing is I've got some basil from my garden that I just have here. I'm not worried about picking these leaves off, making them perfect. I'm just cutting them up because they're gonna go right in here and nobody's gonna see them. They're just gonna taste them, right? So I'm just chopping that like that, and that goes in, and that fresh garden basil is gonna be amazing in there. Now, you don't need that if you don't like that, but it's really good. If you have parsley, you want to put parsley in there. I particularly think like basil's would be my go-to with this. So, okay. Now, I've got a beautiful baking dish. This is just like a regular cast iron style baking dish, but you could use whatever you want with that. Now, I oil it, so you can butter it. It's fine. I just had oil here, that's why I oiled it, but you can butter it, and that works as well. Okay, and once we do that, this goes right in. Just like that, okay? Now, we're gonna press this down. And the reason I don't put a lot of hot chilies in here and hot sauce, because a lot of times when you do these casseroles, you got everybody, you got grandma eating it, you got kids eating it, so sometimes they don't like that. So you're better off making this kind of with a basic flavor format. And then, I mean, I'd still bake them healthy stuff in there, make the kids eat kale, because it's good for them, right? You can see the texture of that. It's loose, but it's not watery, right? And you see how that just fits in there perfectly? Okay, we're gonna just level that off. Now, you could wrap this with plastic wrap, put it in the fridge, and you're good to go tomorrow morning when everybody comes over. You've got the coffee on, you pop this in the oven 15 minutes before, and boom, you're ready to roll. You've got yourself a warm casserole. Or, you know, you can make it the morning of, whatever you do. But I do like baking these and eating them right away. You can eat them after, like refrigerate them, eat them after, but you know, egg is just one of those things that has this super delicate luxury taste to it when it's cooked immediately and eaten immediately. It has a custardiness. That's what you're looking for in this. That's why you see in fancy restaurants them pair caviar and white truffles. What do you see them putting that on? You see them putting that on soft scrambled eggs or egg custards or egg, things made with egg like that, because egg has it's a delicate flavor and texture. So when you add a white truffle or you add something that's got a distinct flavor like caviar or something, that caviar will shine with the beautiful texture of the egg. So in this, my beautiful ham, kale, all that's going to shine in this too. So we're going to bake this, put this in the oven for 50 minutes, pull it out, we'll check it out and see if we like it. But, you know, stay tuned with me and come back and let's have a taste. Okay, it's been 50 minutes and I just removed it from the oven. You can see it simmering. You see we've got a little bit of brown happening around the corners, and that's fine. But this looks beautiful. It's going to be super tasty. You're going to want to let it cool now for at least 10 minutes. Let it settle, and then we're going to try it. Okay, guys, here we are with our beautiful, simple egg casserole, right? So you can see it's got really nice golden brown. And then I'm just going to cut it. And see, this is you let it set usually for, you know, I like to let it sit for a little bit, and it gets really nice. And I'm going to put this whole end piece. I like the texture of these end pieces. But you can see how Just beautiful that is. The egg is cooked really nice. A lot of the the juiciness of the egg kind of gets sucked up in that bread, and you got yourself a beautiful, beautiful piece of casserole here. It's got a nice cheese flavor, ham flavor, right? Now, what's going to happen is if you let this sit in the fridge overnight, you will get a lot. You get a lot of absorption from the bread. And it actually, I think sometimes it almost cooks a little bit better if you let it refrigerate overnight. So this is a perfect dish for you to get that ready, put it in there, wrap it with plastic wrap the night before you have some friends over the next day for a little brunch. Throw that in the oven for 40, I would say 40 to 50 minutes, depending on how hot your oven is. 350 is a good temperature. You're better off going at like 40 minutes testing it, especially if it's a, it's a big like casserole like this. If it's a bigger casserole, you can go for a full hour, but it's better to keep checking it around that 40-minute mark than the 50-minute mark. And you're just looking kind of to see how firm it's getting and how golden it gets around the edges. But, wow. That's perfect. I mean, you can see how beautiful that egg is blended with the bread, and all the flavors of the ham and the cheese and the kale. A little bit of mustard in there gives it that kind of little French feel to it. So, super simple dish. Very basic ingredients, right? All stuff you can throw different things in there that you have left over in the fridge, if it's spinach or if it's chicken or turkey, and it's you want to throw cheddar cheese in there. So there's you make it your own, but the basics are there for you to kind of explore with. And remember the wateriness, okay? If something's watery, not to cook the water down out of it. Like tomatoes, you wouldn't want to put like cherry tomatoes in there, right? Because they're going to pop, cook, and release more water, and then it'll get a little soggier. So think about that. Think about vegetables that have water in them. Drier vegetables are going to suck things up. Like you could put eggplant in there as well. It would be kind of fun. But I would always cook the eggplant first so I know that the texture of it and the moisture of it. So good luck with it, and hope to see you back soon. I'm Chef D Mex.